hey, yeah, we really want to know.
Sorry, I was just jamming.
Yeah, I know. It's just, that's what we listen to in all of our, when we're not on camera, that's always thumping in the background. Not sick of it yet.
It's the music that I work to.
Yep.
All right. Well, good morning and welcome to the latest episode of Project Failure Files, the series for anyone who manages people, projects, or processes for a living. I am Sharon Weaver, CEO of Smarter Consulting.
And I am Christian Buckley, founder of Collab Talk, and welcome to another episode of our series where Sharon and I explore management and leadership topics from the perspective of what not to do.
Yeah. In this episode, we are talking about a fairly common situation where you manage a project or a team, but you don't have direct responsibility. I think they call it a dotted line management.
When does that happen? What? I know.
And the common mistakes that managers can and will and do make when they then attempt to exert the power that they don't actually have.
But, you know, we're both parents of adult children, so we've lost that power, that grip of power as they entered their teen years, of course.
Well, yeah. I mean, we still kind of have the power of guilt, but
So true. This is also, I mean, this is the skill that you need to learn as whether you're an individual contributor or as a manager. How do I get people that I need to do the work I rely on for this task or this project to be completed? They need to get their tasks done. And I often talk about, as you know, Sharon, the worst part of being a project manager back when I was a PM was chasing people down for project status, project updates. Did you get to this yet? Can you do this? Like, this is critical to the timeline. How do you motivate people besides, throttling them in the office? I guess physical altercations are frowned upon in the modern workplace. Who knew? How do you motivate people to get the right outcomes?
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, that's the secret, right? This is the secret to good leadership is how do you motivate people, build good relationships, leverage your emotional intelligence to get them to want to do the job they need to do without having to chase them, babysit them, and task manage them.
It's why we're here. And I would say it's not about being like a constant cheerleader to get people. It's like, hey, these are our jobs. But I would just say my mind's already going, Sharon, about thinking about reminding people of their of the role and responsibilities and clarifying that and driving people, because a lot of people get caught. They feel stuck if they have a question that they haven't asked yet. And anyway, we'll get into all of that. Should be a great conversation as always. As with every episode, folks, please feel free to comment throughout the episode, share your experiences or any great examples or feedback that we might have missed. Yeah, and let's get started.
All right, let's get going with some definitions.
So what does it mean to you to lead without authority? Where does your mind go with that?
I mean, I think about the idea of working with people and getting them to do the things that they need to do. But I always said, that it's all of the responsibility and accountability without any of the ability to tell people what to do, right? We're responsible and accountable often for everything that's happening all the way down to, the financial side of things, the time side of things, right? We're responsible for all of it, but we don't actually have any authority to really make anybody do anything. And so I think about this idea of, if you are, and I want to say like a hiring manager, an HR manager, then you kind of hold the ability, the hire fire power or the salary power or the promotion power, you have some sort of leverage.
Stick. You've got the stick.
You have this, well, you have the stick and the carrot, right? You have a little bit of both. Yeah. Whereas I think when you are managing a project, you're kind of at the mercy of people doing what they say they're going to do, but really short of kind of reminding people, you don't really have a lot of leverage in terms of what you can use as motivational currency.
Yeah. Well, I think that's motivational currency. That does not mean you've got that direct line of authority. You think about that. I think that's a myth about authority. Positional power doesn't equal influence. Think about in organizations you've been at, and I've known people like this that might be a peer, they might be a lower level somewhere in the organization, but they have high level of trust and respect from that. And when they go to people and say, hey, I really need you to look at this now, and people will put down stuff to work with that individual. I mean, that is a high emotional intelligence. That is that is a positional power.
I don't know. I think sometimes managers who have the ability to make or break your career can have some sort of influence and power. But I mean, truthfully, you're absolutely right. I mean, at the end of the day, people are still going to do what they want to do. They're still going to focus on the things that they think are important, and they're going to listen and follow the people that they respect. And I think if you help to motivate people and help to provide, what they need to be successful in their roles, regardless of whether you're their direct manager or not. I do think there are some, ways that you can do that in ways that are more successful than others.
Well, again, regardless of the hierarchy in the organization, having that earned credibility. So that's that trust, that's that reliability. That's like the example that I shared of, it's the senior, low level, but senior, technical person who everyone trusts, everybody, high credibility. They ask for help, you give it, because they'd only ask if they really needed it, and they're coming to you. They're not going to waste your time. And so you do need to tailor your approach for what's the audience, what's the purpose. Sometimes the stick is the right thing. Other times it is the carrot.
Yeah. In fact, so I grew up in software development, and a lot of my job was reminding software developers to fill out their task cards, update their time, turn in their builds. And I kind of used to joke that I had a bowl of candy on my desk, and somebody asked me once, they said, what is your secret to success? And I said, well, I have a bowl of candy on my desk. When they come to put their hand in the candy jar, I'm like, hey, while you're standing here getting a piece of candy, can you give me an update on your task?
Yeah.
And it worked, right? Because every single time, about 3:00, they'd come around looking for sugar, and I had sugar. And so I traded the piece of candy for the information. And, I think there's ways that you can do it to where people can come to you and get what they need.
Yeah. Well, it's that, again, that I won't say that one's right or wrong, but persuasion over pressure. Mm-hmm. Again, there's having some level of pressure. Sometimes it's warranted, and sometimes it's fine. And there's people that actually like to. I also like to work under a certain amount of pressure. I often talk about being a full inbox guy. Like I'm motivated by that. I don't get frustrated by that. It's like runners or cyclists that love the hills. Mm-hmm. It's almost like that.
Yes. I think there's
almost like that.
When there's a sense of urgency, or there's a sense of, importance, or there's a sense of, something where it's going to like get your adrenaline up a little bit. I think for some people that, they are motivated by that.
Yeah. I mean, I've worked in organizations where, culturally, like there's always individuals that are going to have that inner fire. They're self-motivated to go and do those things. They're constantly looking at, how can I exceed, in this thing, go and get things done. There's other people, I'm more like this, that are that are list creators, and, and so I will sit and create lists and go through and check it off, what I need to do in a day, in a week, and move things over, and using tooling for doing that. So that gamification that I've done to my own life, again, that's a motivator. And so it's really culturally figuring out like what type of org are you, and what are the individuals that you're trying to work with, whether you manage or not, to figure out what's their style, what's their, how do they fit within the culture we've created around these updates.
Yeah, I think that's such a big topic too. Like I know this is not the topic of the day, but cultural motivation and how you like encourage people to get things done within the organization that's like really interesting to me. In fact, I thought about going back to get a master's degree in organizational psychology because I think it's fascinating.
Yeah, I almost did instead of my MBA in technology management was an MAOM. Same reason.
I think it's fascinating why people do what they do, but then how can you encourage and motivate them to be successful? And I think you're absolutely right. I think every organization has like a little bit of a different cultural philosophy on what their motivation tactics are. And, we think about the difference between, for example, like the military, which, is you do what I say to do now, right? And if you don't, you're out. All the way to, if we think about more like nonprofits, a lot of times people are there because they get a sense of belonging and purpose, and often they're not making enough money for it to be money motivated, right? They're there for, because they want to be there, and so they're motivated for a reason that's a little bit different than that. And I think when you look at like all the difference of the way that people are motivated in general to do their jobs, and then you bring that back into this topic, right? Then to your point, at the organizational and the culture level, what is motivating your employees or members or the people who work with you? Like, what is motivating them to do things? And then how much empowerment do managers have within the organization? And then when we think about something like a project manager who is not necessarily responsible for the employees themselves, but they are responsible for facilitating, getting everybody to do things, I think all of that stuff kind of becomes very complex, but it comes into play kind of holistically.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and part of that holistic view too is that it's not like you're working in a vacuum. You have an individual that doesn't report to you. You're trying to get them to do something. Like, they have their marching orders from their manager and from the projects they're working on. Yep. And so that's another layer to this onion, which often stinks, is trying to figure out, hey, I'm trying to get you to do this thing. Where does it fit within your priorities? Can I go, and I've done this without talking to the person. I've done it with the person, go to their manager to try and negotiate more of their time to finish this task and get that adjusted. Like, I don't fault an individual for pushing back and saying, look, this is what I was told to go and do. This is my focus. I don't have time for this other task. In fact, I've told teams I've managed, I will say that, like, you are not authorized to change what is on your plate. You must come and get it approved by me because these things are the priority. It doesn't mean shouldn't be willing to change. Again, the culture of the organization, the emotional intelligence of the manager, of the person's manager. But to go and have that discussion, I mean, that's just part of the daily, sometimes multiple times in a day, reprioritization of what do we need to do for this client, for this project, for whatever it is that you're working towards.
Yeah, I'd say, in the what not to do reference, just 100% trust that everybody will understand their tasks and do them, and they will only reach out when they need help.
Yeah. And it's I mean, the other dark side to all of this is if you have too rigid or hierarchical structure to your organization, that can cause problems. There's inflexibility in getting work done. It doesn't really match the real world of how projects get done and workloads. We have to work together. We have to be collaborative. You have to kind of find a way to do stuff. Sometimes that means extra hours. Other times, a lot of the times, it doesn't mean necessarily working overtime. It means better, closer coordination. It goes back to, it's more of a management issue than it is an execution issue.
Yeah. Well, and I think about it too, in the idea that it's a little bit of both, right? So ultimately, I think the project manager has to be responsible for identifying the things that need to be done, assigning them, following up on them. But individuals also need to be held accountable to make sure that they're planning their own time properly, they're prepping ahead, they're making sure that they're ready to go for whatever's coming. And I think it ends up being kind of this, mixed agreement, almost like a social contract of, I will make sure you have the tasks if you make sure you do the tasks, right? And I think culturally, what ends up happening when you don't have the authority to make somebody do something, which really we don't, but if you don't have that hiring manager mentality, is more just making sure that they have all of the things that they need to have to be successful, and then holding them accountable for it.
Yeah. Well, I think culturally, what are the pitfalls if this type of behavior, continues? I think one of the things that will, like, top of the list is disengagement from the team. If people think you're not my manager, this is not my organization, and again, I'm sure you've also had this experience. I was consulting for a company that had this issue. In fact, my direct manager, the person who brought me in, told me to ignore flat out the other directors, their peers in the org and their things. And I'm like, yeah, that's not going to work out. And so I tried to go and develop a relationship with these other individuals, hear their feedback. I tried to keep the spirit of, like, I get it, you want focused and around this, like, but I need to understand also I'm changing things that are impacting these other groups. I need to get their input, to hear their voice, all those things. It was a very political role.
That sounds awful.
It wasn't that. It wasn't. I mean, there's some times it was hairy, but it wasn't that bad because I tried to reach out and build relationships with the group. It really softened things a lot by doing that.
But I mean, this is something that everybody deals with, right? And this is, we talk about what not to do and what can go wrong, and political affiliations, even inside of a small business, right, can get hairy. And what ends up happening is when you have a project manager that's tasked with making sure that something's getting done, but you have other managers that are telling them not to listen to them or to deprioritize them, or that whatever it is that they're telling you to do doesn't matter, or whatever it is, right? It's going to create that lack of authority kind of overall.
Lack of trust. Right. Trust. Yeah. It's that you can see how easily, decisions get reversed. Like in the example I shared where it said, like, just ignore their requests. Like,
yeah,
you can't ignore them. You can't, like, it's almost like hiding from it, running away from having difficult conversations just because trying to make change happen. So with that authority vacuum, nobody feels accountable for what needs to be done. There's then not trust in the PMs, what projects, what's real, what's not real. And then people start looking at Indeed.com.
I was gonna say, then the next thing you know, you got like Lord of the Flies corporate edition.
Right. No, that's exactly where it goes. Is then people are just like, there's no future here. This is a hot mess. Mm-hmm. And then suddenly you have somebody who was offered an internal move, but is like, no, I don't want to do that at all. Suddenly, like, that looks pretty good. Hey, I'll do it. Hey, I'm out of here.
Yeah. No, I do think that's definitely the biggest pitfall, right? Whenever you have that kind of, to your point, that erosion of trust within an organization, you see people kind of looking for other opportunities. You see people leaving. And even worse, you can take it from a very, very good culture where you have a lot of really great people, great leaders, very well respected. And if that starts to happen, it can run the good people off. And then all of a sudden, all you get are, people who are coming in to do empire building, and it becomes a very political landscape as opposed to being one of trust and collaboration and, good things.
I was just thinking, a great training. I mean, you're in the midst of it now with the MGCI. So doing community related things where you have, air quotes, authority.
Much authority
around there. Yeah. But yeah, no, again, where it's a cross-functional, but everybody for different companies. So there is no authority around that. And yet slower than you're inside of a company, but you're getting stuff done. You're getting things. You're getting people to step up, to volunteer. You're getting content created, decisions made out there. Getting involved for folks that are looking for kind of training opportunities. Go get involved with your local tech or business user groups.
Mm-hmm.
Any kind of a community type organization. Get involved, volunteer. You're going to get some great practice on how to direct people without any authority.
Yeah. Well, and I think this is something that happens so frequently, especially in technology. And I think, one of my early kind of leadership roles, I was brought in to manage, application practices and SharePoint practices and administration type stuff. And I was brought in and I was like, oh, where's my team?
Yeah.
And they're like, well, you have access to these people in the business and they can volunteer to help you. And, and it's like, wait a minute. Right. And so I think I was kind of taught early on, I didn't have the authority to make anybody do anything. And so I really had to kind of foster those relationships and build those relationships and really impress on those people who were dotted line to me, right? So essentially what ended up happening is I was responsible for making sure that they did the job that they needed to do, but they were not reporting to me in the fashion of a hiring manager, right? And so I had to really learn, like, how do I go around and how do I get people to buy into what we're trying to accomplish so that it was a win-win for both of us. And I think this happens so often in technology where you might be responsible for, some sort of an application or a practice around a certain thing. And you're like the only person that's there to answer questions and support things and do stuff like that. But yet you're supposed to get other people to help you in some way.
Yeah. Well, so let's jump into strategies. So strategies for overcoming, this issue. I think we both agree, like, number one, having credibility that goes so far. You can have high credibility, but low knowledge on, like, new project you just came in. If people recognize that you're somebody who thoughtfully goes through, understands all the issues before, making decrees, decisions that are impacting people without involving them. I'm a huge believer in having transparency around that, and like I mentioned earlier, being clear on roles and responsibilities between those two things. You can develop credibility quickly on any problem. You're transparent. Like, this is the process. Here's what I'm following. Here's the steps I'm going through. Here's the stakeholders. Here's the roles as I understand me. Here's what I was brought in to go and do. Did I get anything wrong here? All right. Now this decision needs to be made. I need the three of you to do this piece before I can do this. Is that correct? Like, people appreciate that. It's a bit like, with going back to adult children, but kids, it works the same way, except we did have authority over them. We did have the stick and the carrot, there with them.
Well, one of the things you're kind of saying is to model good behavior, right? And so model the behavior that you want to see in others to establish the credibility of, look, and I've had this conversation so many times, even with managers, right? There's hiring managers and there's working managers, and there's always kind of this debate of, should I be in there doing things, or should I simply be behind the scenes tasking everybody? And I think everybody works a little bit different, but at the end of the day, I think the ability to establish the credibility of who you are and what you're doing, I think partially stems from can you show people, the level of accountability that you're taking so that they feel like they're not doing this by themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny, figuring out the motivations of each of the individuals.
Candy. It's always candy.
Candy's up high on the list. understanding, and we're going to talk about this, and we've talked about it a little bit in other episodes, and we'll talk again, but recognition is a huge motivation there.
Oh my gosh, I have a story for that one. I have to
Okay.
tell you this motivation story. So I worked in tech support 100,000 years ago. And they used
That's a long time ago.
It's a very
I
long
don't think that's an accurate representation of the time
back
period.
when dirt was invented, Christian. It was that long ago. Back before the
Okay, all right.
internet. All right.
Totally believable. Yep.
Like the internet didn't even exist this long ago, right?
Yeah.
So they had this little thing where they were trying to get the help desk people to do a better job of solving the problem. Right. Because I know this shocks you, but like people were like hanging up on people and not helping them and things like that.
Yep.
So they're like, okay, how can we improve this problem? And so they basically did this little chart where they said, okay, how many people have fixed their problem according to the client? And you got points for fixing the client's problem. And at the end of the week, every week, they would print out this little certificate on the old, dot matrix printer thing that basically was the support person of the week because they fixed the most problems. And you would have thought that these were like gold plated, the way that people were fighting and I mean, like just working so hard for these things.
Hey, I helped you with that. I should get half those points. Yeah.
They were so excited to like have this competition and get that piece of paper. So when you say like motivation, like, we kind of say this lightly in the idea that people like to be noticed. They like to be rewarded. They like, they like that feedback. But I am telling you, like that little tiny piece of paper was huge for this group of people.
Gamification is a real thing. I mean, that's a topic, on its own, multiple subtopics under that. But no, you're right. It's understanding people's motivations. And it's, look, I've worked in support and operations roles. I've worked closely with the salespeople, both of them highly motivated by the gamification. I mean, in support operations, it was all about the mean time to resolution. So it was the number of tickets that you closed, but also how quickly that you were able to close that, and looking at, why are these taking so long? I've shared this with you that we had looking at MTTR and at a number of tickets closed. There was one person who, looking at the chart, was at the bottom of the chart. He closed the fewest tickets and took him forever to close these tickets. And remember, the manager was just like, this is the person who's not performing. I'm like, wait a second. That's the person taking the hardest, ugliest problems that can't be solved. Every single one of these, he has to go and work with the product team to solve. So your stats are not painting an accurate picture of this. So anyway, I'm going a little bit sideways off that around the motivation though, but understanding that motivation for the majority of people that fit within that, you just have to be careful. Like with any metric, it's giving you a slice of data, a picture of that. It's not the whole story. And so you need to look at other data points. One other piece to that is just, if you have a relationship, like in that scenario, if this manager had taken the time to go have a conversation with that support ops person, would have found out really quickly what was going on and would have like, oh, okay.
Now stop, Christian.
Yeah.
You're expecting us to like talk to
people.
Other,
I know.
To know them. No.
Building relationships is a key part of all of this. Because again, it's somebody somebody that's been rude to me, that's been really short and just, hey, I need you to do this, and walks away. It's like, ask what's going on. You don't know what's on my plate, what my priorities are. Like, goes at the bottom of the list, and so versus somebody who I have a relationship with that comes over and says, and if they have a relationship, they're going to say, hey, what do you have going on? Is this something, where would this fit? Like, is this something like, here's how it's impacting me. Here's the priority. Is this something that you can fit in there? And if you want an honest answer back, sometimes they're going to come back and say, it just doesn't fit in. Like, I'm sorry, but other times, they'll say, hey, let me try to squeeze this in. I can get this out to you whenever.
But also, like, crazy idea. if you're talking to people and you have a relationship and you know what's going on and they can't fit it in right then, it's also very possible that they're going to say, I can't do it today, but how about tomorrow?
Right. Well, I love the whole, I mean, this is all part of the ask, don't tell model.
Mm-hmm.
Ask people about things. Don't bark orders at them. Don't tell them what they should do. You frame it as a collaborative discussion between adults. Let's talk about this. And where you say, like, I'm really stressed out about this. This is behind. Here's why. I need to get this done ASAP. What is there anything you can do for me? Have a conversation. That's much better than being the jerk coming over and trying to pull rank or go above their head. Like I said, I've done that where I've gone to their manager. I wasn't trying to be mean to the individual. I was actually trying to clarify the priority of this new request to everything else on their plate. So they didn't have to make that decision.
Well, and I think, as part of that model, understanding where people are at in the moment, how they're dealing with stuff, using emotional intelligence, right? To understand, when is the right time to ask them so the ask, don't tell, right? When is the right time to ask them about it? My guess is while they're under a crazy bad deadline, and they're working on a really high priority thing, maybe an urgent something or other, and you've got a very low priority item, maybe not the right time to ask them about it.
Yeah.
But while they're sitting there, maybe making videos.
Yeah. Right.
Or playing solitaire, just looking for something to do because they're trying to bide their time. Might be better.
I mean, but again, you have the conversation. You want to listen to like the issues around the priorities and understand that. Sometimes hey, can we go over and talk to your manager and see if this is something that we can do? It's like, I'm not trying to pull rank, but I'm just trying to get this done and figure out if I can get this other thing taken off your plate. Would that help to get to this? That's the negotiation. That's the discussion. And then the last thing, and we are going to talk about this again in a future episode, is recognizing the fact that they put down other things and helped out, like be gracious about that side of it. That goes a long way. Yeah. And it needs to be authentic too. It's a, somebody who has historically had a difficult time saying just, thank you for that. I mean, I say like thanks, but it's kind of loose, but to really do the recognition piece of it. Like I've shared in past episodes where I've had direct reports that are like, yeah, but it's more meaningful when you do it, because when they go above and beyond, like I definitely will call that out and recognize that.
Yeah.
This would be a great example of getting somebody to kind of change their priorities and jump on and do something for you, motivating them that direction would be an above and beyond. That would be something I would definitely recognize.
Well, and we said at the beginning, the whole point of this is that we are not especially in project management role, product management role, those types of roles, you're not responsible for, contributors at a management level, right? You're not responsible for, what's going on. And so you can't directly task them oftentimes. What we can do is we can encourage, we can motivate. We have more carrot than we have stick, honestly. Yeah. So I think at the end of the day, to your point, authentically, not just doing it for the sake of doing it, but authentically really appreciating people and promoting people is really good. And I really enjoyed, I was part of an organization where they implemented these annual awards for everybody in the entire organization as part of the Six Sigma program. And so essentially, if you worked on a Six Sigma project, you were entered into this kind of list of awards. And if your project met certain criteria, it was then judged against other projects. So, think about like highest ROI value and most things that were done and, biggest problem fixed and those kinds of things. Right. And what I did find is that program was not just grew, but was really well respected because every year, we had this big awards program where everybody who participated was able to come in and be recognized for the things that they were doing. So I don't even think it matters, to your point, if it's something very small, like a comment, to something that's kind of like a certificate all the way to a full-blown awards program. I think, use what you do have at a motivational level to make people feel like they're appreciated.
Yeah. So what would you say, what's your list of best practices? What would you include on this?
I would definitely say to make sure that everybody's on the same page. Make sure you're leading with transparency, being open, so that everybody kind of knows what's going on. And as you're doing that, align what your expectations are with whatever the business initiatives are, so that you're not competing with anything at a business level.
Right. Well, that's a great point, is make sure people understand here's where it fits in. It's not me asking you. It's like this is done. Here's the goals for the business. Here's what needs to be done for this project. So you're going from that perspective, not you need to do this for me. It's a. I mean, it's
really like it if you do your job today.
Yeah. But it's also important to make sure communication is open. Have a discussion. Again, ask, don't tell people what to do. But that's such the opposite, where I teach like a Sunday school class with little kids. And I'm very much of the tell, don't ask. Asking doesn't get, when I like raise my voice a little bit and tell them, it's like they seem to snap to those. No, but to document agreements, to understand, accountability. I mean, we've talked about in past episodes of going through and doing, documenting the roles and responsibilities and the decisions, and have like the RACI chart of, who is responsible, who's accountable for each of these things, informed on those decisions, who are the stakeholders versus the active participants. All that kind of stuff helps with clarity, transparency around what needs to be done. And then my last one is around consistency in the model. We always talk about the model, the approach. Be consistent in your behaviors. If you're known for a systematic systems thinking approach, here's how I go in, I'm involving people and doing this, make a decision, we're going and building on this, open for feedback at any stage of it, but this is our process. People then recognize that, they have trust in that process, and then they're more likely, again, to say yes when you have that conversation.
Yeah, I think
that trust.
I think when people know what to expect, they're more likely to participate. And so I think being consistent and being transparent creates that environment where they feel safe, and things are predictable.
Yep. Hey, it's one of my favorite Buckleyisms. The more you involve people in the process, the more likely they are to support that process. So
yep,
it's true.
I agree.
Any specific call to actions that stick out to you? What challenge can we give people to go and do here?
I mean, I think if you think about where these types of things are happening in your day-to-day life, right? Maybe think about where are some areas where you are trying to accomplish things, you're feeling kind of stuck, and you can, use some of these tips and techniques and processes to better those relationships or better those challenges that you're having. I think that, sometimes we don't even think about the fact that that's what's frustrating us until we kind of identify it and see, oh, that's what's going on. So yeah. I'd say go look for one of those opportunities to be able to fill that gap.
You have to do the hand motion with, there's opportunities. Yeah, I like that idea, going in and assessing, the various projects. I'm sure all of us have that with various discussions, interactions, things that are out there, and look at the ones that are not the best, the strongest, the healthiest, and kind of audit that. Like, what can I do differently? Like, if your goal is just to aggravate people, then hey, go for it. I mean, that's what you're being paid to do. No, so obviously you want to, whether you would ever invite that person back to your house to have dinner, is not the point here. You can work with people and get along and get things done with people that you would never spend time with personally. But there's things that you can do to improve that relationship. It's adaptive leadership by going in and assessing, this is not working. Can I try to do more of the thing that I know is not working? No, let's try something different. Let's try a different approach. And you can do it as an experiment. It's like, try some things out and see if that helps or hurts.
Like maybe, just maybe, practice being transparent and share information with your team and let them know what's going on and allow them to participate before you start going around and telling them what to do.
Great wisdom there. Great parting words there. And that's it for this week's episode. And please be sure to follow us and subscribe. We're out on the new YouTube channel. We're kind of starting from scratch by moving it to a standalone Project Failure Files YouTube channel. So if you're not already following, please subscribe to the channel. It's all PFF all the time on that channel, but lots more coming, video shorts. We're getting ready here to do with the newsletter and a few other things in the on-demand training. That's all coming up pretty quick here. So please follow and you'll hear much more about that.
Yeah, come join us. All right. Well, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.
See you next week. Bye.
Bye.
I mean, do we want to know? I don't know. What's our motivation here?